Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to look at something that could completely flip the script on how we think about waste, turning this huge global problem into, believe it or not, a valuable resource. So let's just kick things off with that big question. The amount of garbage we all create feels totally overwhelming, right? It's like this impossible mountain we can't climb. But what if we've been looking at the whole problem from the wrong angle? For as long as I can remember, we've really only had two options. Option one, bury it, stick it in a landfill, which, by the way, takes up a ton of space. Option two, burn it in these giant incinerators. The problem there, that pumps CO2 and all sorts of nasty stuff into the air. Let's be honest, neither of those is a great long-term plan. So that brings us to a different way of thinking. Maybe the answer isn't just finding a fancier way to get rid of our trash. Maybe it's about completely changing how we see trash in the first place. And this quote right here, it really nails the whole idea behind the tech we're diving into. The company that made this stuff says, look, our machine isn't for people who just want to make garbage disappear. It's for businesses that get it, that see garbage for what it could be, a resource just waiting to be used. All right, so let's get to it. Let's meet the machines that are actually making this pretty radical idea happen. Okay, so this technology comes out of Japan from two companies called ASK Shokai and EcoCreate Holdings. And they've got two main systems, the ERCM and the OHD. Now, the most important thing to get right off the bat is that these are not incinerators. They don't burn a single thing. Instead, they basically deconstruct trash and turn it into something completely new. Okay, so if it's not burning anything, then how in the world does it break down everything from, old food to medical waste so well? Well, the answer is this really cool mix of physics and chemistry. Let's break down how this actually works, because it's pretty wild. Step one, special ceramics inside shoot out far infrared rays that warm up just the organic stuff in the trash. Then, and this is the amazing part, the machine releases these things called OH radicals. We can just think of them as these tiny little molecular scissors that go to work, snipping all the long chemical chains in the waste into smaller pieces. And get this. That whole snipping process actually creates its own heat, which means the machine doesn't need any extra fuel. Pretty cool, right? So once everything's broken down, the light organic bits just evaporate away, and all you're left with is this totally sterile, inorganic ceramic powder. And here is maybe the biggest win of all. Since this is decomposition, not burning, just look at the difference in CO2 emissions. It's just staggering. The ERCM/OHD process, only 1.7%. A normal incinerator, 21%. That is a massive, massive drop. Okay, but this is where things get really, really interesting. Let's talk about what these machines can actually handle and what they turn it into. Yeah, we are not talking about your everyday kitchen scraps and junk mail here. These machines can tackle the stuff that's an absolute nightmare for regular disposal. We're talking about infectious medical waste, diapers and stuff, plastics that have been floating in the ocean caked in salt that would just destroy a normal incinerator, fiberglass, even seriously toxic stuff like PCBs and old electronics. So let's look at a real-world example of this. They took some nasty stuff, old paint scraps from a bridge project that were full of PCBs. And if you don't know, PCBs are super toxic pollutants that stick around forever and are notoriously hard to get rid of safely. So they put it through the ERCM, and afterwards, the PCBs were just gone. Not trapped, not contained, but completely obliterated at a molecular level, down to levels so low they couldn't even be detected. And the paint itself, it was broken down too, leaving behind only its basic inorganic parts. And that brings us to maybe the most mind-blowing stat, the volume reduction. In one real-world case, this machine took a huge pile of waste and shrank it down to 1/1300th of its original size. 1/1300th. All that was left was a little bit of sterile ceramic powder. Just stop and think for a second what that could do for our landfills. So as you can see, this is a real game changer. But it's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. There are actually two different ways this technology works, depending on what you're trying to do.
Okay, so let's break down the two models. First, you've got the ERCM. That's the main workhorse we've been talking about. It's great for all kinds of general waste, and its main job is to shrink everything down into that sterile ceramic powder. But then you've got the OHD. This one is smaller and it has a really cool party trick. If you feed it plastics or other oil-based stuff, it can actually recover 60 to 80% of that material as crude oil. I mean, it literally turns plastic trash back into oil. How amazing is that?
And look, this isn't just some massive industrial-scale solution. It can work for regular businesses too. So let's bring it back down to a more practical level and look at a great example, a bento box shop over in Nagoya, Japan. Okay, so before they got one of these machines, this shop was paying 4 million yen a month. That's about 25,000 bucks just to get rid of their food scraps and old lunchboxes every single month. Then they installed an ERCM unit right there at the shop. And their costs? They went from 4 million yen all the way down to just 150,000 yen a month. And that was just for the electricity to run the thing. That's an insane cost savings of over 95%. And just so you know, this isn't some little science project nobody's heard of. In 2024, this very technology won the grand prize from the Office of the Prime Minister of Japan. We're talking top-level recognition for its contribution to the country's resilience. That's a pretty huge vote of confidence, right?
So that really leaves us with a final big idea to chew on. A machine like this doesn't just give us a better garbage can. It forces us to ask, what even is waste? You know, if our trash can be turned back into valuable stuff like ceramics and oil, then it's not the end of the line anymore, is it? It's the start of something new. So the question for all of us is, what else could we do? What could we build if we stopped seeing trash and started seeing a resource?